So the social fund, ex-social fund, now it's called the authority. Just want to we just want to tell you that we have passed the buck in the first segment because we are gonna print it, or we are going to disseminate it in a lot of locations, because these are information that are very important. So we will need people from the authority to train them. Please tell me, what does the authority or the agency do for women? For women? I thank you, of course, and I'm a bit scared. I'm pleased to be here. 46 women and 10 men. I'm in a rough patch here. It's not easy for me. So Miss Naveen Gamma was on her way, but for circumstances beyond her control, she was not able to come. And in the agency, we have excellent gender standardization, and our women are very empowered. Chairmanship of the sectors, and our majority are women holding excellent position. 3 weeks ago, I was with Dr. Abla. She always likes, she also likes someone from the agency to be always available with her. For 25 years, it was the Social Fund of Development until April 2017, where a decision from the Prime Minister that it started to be an agency for SMEs. And of course, the first entity to be included is the ITC, or a training center. The real difference between the fund and the agency is that the agency is trying to streamline all the transactions and logistics and activities with the SMEs. We have 3 kinds of SMEs. Entrepreneurship is one of them, and entrepreneurship is built on the fact whether there is an additional value or a new idea. At that point, it starts to move from the idea of just being a project to being an entrepreneurship, or to getting into entrepreneurship. 25 years ago, people didn't used to talk about SMEs because people didn't conceive what does entrepreneurship means, and to them it was puzzles, all of it. Until today, there is no unified understanding of the definition of the entrepreneur or the entrepreneurship. I'm speaking about the 2 genders or 2 sexes. We don't understand what's the difference between social entrepreneurship and other kinds of entrepreneurship. So sometimes we are not on the same wavelength. And here, when we deal with the more than entity, there might be this problem of unifying the definition or the concept. The main problem is that people refrain of any transaction because there was no ecosystem. All people who provide services, whether funding or non-financial services, see or they just thought that there were certain projects that yields a lot of profit, and that was easier for them to go for these mega projects instead of going to the SMEs that do not yield the same profit. At the same time, service providers in the different fields, training, marketing, whatever, they prefer to work with mega entities who could pay and participate with them, plus that the profit is very high, is very lucrative. even if you have a look on, big exhibition, you find that people pay a lot because the profits are also very high. So, this is actually very different than, of course, juniors or small projects. So at that time, back then, the fund was trying to present all the services directly, but of course, they were not able to present all the services on their own because that was more than, of course, a big budget, which was nothing according to the central bank. We are working with 37 billion. This was really a big deal. So this facilitation and coordination is something new that we have introduced. The agency is really presenting services, but our main goal is not only is not only money, but a lot of other services, especially in Upper Egypt. We still need a lot, not only in Upper Egypt, but in other very far locations. We still have problems that even if we don't have very big numbers, but still the requirements are very much loading, and in certain locations like Kafr Sheikh and Bahira, what had the fund or the agency been doing? Of course, we had the unit for gender, that's number one, and the same problem I always face, because we are very much interested in empowering women. Now we are wondering, what about the empowering of men? I mean, because women are just having it also. Now I'm one man and there are 3 ladies and 10 men and 46 women. That's not fair. I mean, more important than the gender is the understanding of the real need for women in entrepreneurship. So we have monitored certain things that highlights financing. Sometimes men used to take the financing loans in their own name and not in the name of the woman. So sometimes even the vice versa, he puts the loan in the name of the woman because he wants to avoid risks. And the woman or his wife or whoever didn't know anything about that. Then she discovered a loss or whatever the project is, failing. And at the very end, she faces the results on her own. And she'd never find the husband supporting her in this. Also, in a lot of locations, the woman is permitted to work, but she cannot do the work.
She wants to market that, and she needs to go and sell, and she couldn't do the project, even that, and we started to solve this in order to facilitate as much as we can, and there's nothing that prevents to make it temporary, to be temporary with her husband or son. And so you'll find our training programs, and I'll tell you some KPIs that in the training, 74% of the women, since the establishment of the agency until now, it's about 1 year and 1 month, about 74% are women during these 11 months. And there is an initiative with Mrs. Anel, she's here, and an initiative with ILO for training 10,000, not women, but 10,000 in general. And until now, about 7,000 have been trained, 74% of them are women. In the micro or small enterprises, about 180,000 women benefited from this during from 11 to 18 months. The percentage of women is 69%. As to the small enterprises, it's about 12% projects, 28% are women. But what is significant is that the percentage of the success of the projects and achieving of the objectives, whether training or marketing, it's 99%. And 1% is non-achieving of objectives. For example, only 1%. I'll not tell you the percentage of men, but from the experience during the 13 months or the 25 years before, when the woman decides to do something, she does it very efficiently. We help her, and so the programs offered by the agency, since we start to think there are some training programs, maybe the woman couldn't know himself, and when I saw the guide, there is something very good, like a comment that made me very glad. I don't think that the woman knows and conceals that she knows. It's difficult to know everything from the beginning because we are not supermen or superwomen, but at the end we help. So we start to see what are the concerns of each woman, and so we made programs especially for women. And I'll say again, the ILO and Decent Jobs program, these are the partners we are dealing with, because they have some programs that are very strong and fruitful. Some of them are specialized only for women, whether the small or micro enterprises, but in many cases we find that the mixed programs are a lot. What we, like we said, 74% are women in our programs. But to how much does the woman make motivation after the stage of knowing where to go to the direction that they want, for something that is proportionate to her level of education and environment and so on. So according to the nature of the project, she starts to take the training, whether in managerial skills, and she couldn't get people who will so how to take these steps, and also the feasibility study and a work plan for any project. And so the micro is very simple. So at the end, there shall be a work plan that is very simplified, so that the women especially can take the roadmap and it looks well. The other step that we started to facilitate for the women after this, even starting from the training programs, even in her own village. We have 33 offices in 27 governorates, because some places are far from each other. We also made mobile units. It's like a full unit for the agency, so that she can reach the place, and it's very important for the women, because the women will need that. In addition, when there are courses, we can make this in the places which are secure in the village, like for example the youth center in the village. And there are many, more than 1,600 associations, 31 ministries, including the Ministry of the Interior, for example, for issuing the IDs for the women in their own places. Maybe more than 190,000 IDs were issued in the first year. It was very good project. Then after that, the other point is the problem of the woman. When she starts to work, maybe we need funding. Most of the people,
At the very start, it used to be easy because we deal with a lot of societies, and of course funding becomes a bit of less than a problem. But sometimes there are another problem when the woman is affiliated to a certain micro project or small project. She usually receives support. Usually receives support from the husband. That's why you had training for the husband and the wife together, so that they would understand how much the project is very important to both of them. So we saved the woman by having her husband attend, so that they are both on the same page. And from this perspective, of course, this is very encouraging to the woman. Concerning, of course, the papers and the documents, we have in the agency the one-stop shop, and there are a lot of there are other 6 locations that cover the papers. For example, the Ministry of Investment is having good work, and Mashru'i, or my project, also have something very good. The Calais and Alexandria, and in most of the governorates, we have this one service stop station, and we're trying to introduce some electronic innovations, but this will come later. So in a nutshell, I think that the agency is not yet full-fledged, and we still have a lot to aspire for concerning enhancing our role. You will find in all our presentations that we are highlighting 2 segments, the women and youth. And when we say 74%, we'll find that 74% are young, among which are 60% are youth, less than 35 years. So we have double-folded benefit. This year also, for people of special needs, we have this component of the physically challenged. So we have 2 programs to rehabilitation of women with special needs in 2 governorates. We screen them. We have criteria for selection. And we pay special attention, of course, to women who really are very talented and are very skillful. I'm sorry to have go for a long time, but I know that I'll receive the feedback. I want to say something positive. This is the first time where an agency give an indicator about the 11 months that you've been working, because usually the agency or any agency starts highlighting their achievements through the 35 past years. But now, because the fund changed to an agency, it was good of you that you have highlighted, of course, this in a professional way. I also appreciate very much training of husbands. Now are you using the definition of the central bank or no? Because the fund had a special definition. The central bank has a certain definition in certain. We want to unify all the definitions, because this will help us with statistics. Well, we cannot, or we are not able to change the definition now. So we are on the way to redefine certain terms according to the central bank. We face a problem, concerning this guide. We wanted to know how the agency is working. We didn't find your website, so that was a real problem.
Why there is no website? Now what you are saying, how can the people know it? The people come to get trained to you. How come in case you have no website? Now we have a website. It's not only a website, we have two things together. We have a website under establishment, still as and there's a platform for the projects in general. We saw that our role as an agency, there is something called MSME.eg. This is available now, and this is a platform. And now it has 250 agencies working in the project, whether small, medium, or micro enterprises and the entrepreneurship projects. And the agency, when we click on the platform, we'll find the news of the agency. Its launching will be after 10 days. And it is dynamic. Every year, agencies have access and are being added and join it, because the dramatic changes and the mechanisms of this agency, because we were working at the same time to amend everything. The ITC, it is the industrial training of industry, industrial training center, and it made a good effort in training, and it was trying to find jobs for the people and what are the trainings needed, and provide customized training, and their performance was very good. When it is being joining to the fund, it disappeared. So I don't want to know what happened. What any updates in this case? I need to talk frankly, and I'm sorry about that. The ITC was very special in training, especially in vocational training and operation, and joining the jobs like factories, for example. The agency has something that is near to it, which is training for employment or operation. There was a system called the Human and Community Development, and it did the same thing. Both of them were working in a similar way, but the important thing is that they are depending on grants. The ITC, when it was transferred, it didn't have a penny. It finished all its grants. And so its programs were automatically stopped because there was no funding. After this joining, the other program finished the last branch of the grant of the European Union in this case, and both of them didn't get a grant. And this program couldn't be self-funded, but it consumes a lot of money. Even in the participation of the companies and the factories, they contribute with only 20%, and so there is 80% at least incurred by the authority, whether the ITC or whatever. This is the bad news, but the good news is there are some grants for this case, and what is sure is that it had good cadres. There were calibers that were excellent in this field, and that we are trying to invest in, and it needs a very small thing to be solved, and it will be solved during at maximum 4 months. Let us return to Dr. Hiba and Jacqueline. Dr. Hiba, in the framework of the projects that you made in Upper Egypt, were there any used for your project or the agency, or funding from the banks, or this didn't happen as a tool for funding? We didn't resort yet to credit. We totally depend on grants from Egyptian and foreign authorities and Egyptian banks. I wanted to return back to what we benefited from the different institutions. The most important thing was the ITC, because we trained TOT for all the teachers of Qina in sewing, and they were tested and they had very poor performance, and the ITC itself resorts to the specialized authority in the aspect of sewing. It was Trentex. They report to the Exporting Council for Ready-Made Garments, and it was a very good curriculum. And during 2 years, we could increase the average level, technical level of the teachers in all Kenya schools who give diplomas in sewing and relevant things to sewing, and they were transferred from a level of 20% to 80%. But the biggest investment that we made, of course, we paid a lot of the grants that we get for training. There was a big part that we funded because they couldn't fund that to have trainers from Cairo. I should take them to a hotel and give them per diem. So it is costly, but without this way we couldn't reach any results. The TOT, or training of trainers, was essential, and at the same time we use the mechanism of apprenticeship. This was very important in the different crafts, because the crafts, the ITC has nothing to do with specialized handcrafts. For example, arabesque or copper. Most of the handcrafts, which is the heritage of Egypt, is disappearing because no one is educating it inside a school. When we find a school having weaving, for example, like Ahmed, it is not utilized in the best way. The curricula were very good, and I wanted to comment on what I heard from the agency as to saying that the man can participate with his wife in small enterprises. From my experience, I see that we should focus on the woman, and she should be alone owner of a project or with other women, because empowerment of women after year after year will make her feel that her ability is similar to that of the man and that they are equal. In any workshop I train in, there is only women, and after they get trained 1 or 2 years, I take their permission. If the boys or the men can come during in the evening, it will be an evening shift, for example, and they tell me what's their opinion. They meet together and tell me whether this is okay or not. Why? Because when you get us another furnace, you can tell the boys to come. They think in a very good way. For example, in the wood carpentry, for example, we see that there is a problem in the machinery. It can be used during the evening. I am biased, but this bias because of my experience. Since I was young, I tried to help women in a village that she gets machinery and work on it, and then when her husband finds that she starts to sell and make profit, he tells her, I will pay half the price of the machinery, but he doesn't work half the time of her work. So this exploitation, I see that it is not something good. What is the second question?
You said this is the worst sort of abuse, because he borrows his wife's money and then he just leaves, and she's the one who goes to jail.